Hey y'all, how's it going? Oh, excuse my, I'm tired. It's very early. It's just now 7 a.m. And the sun's just peeking up, but it is hot here in Texas. So we're getting this garden tour started early. I got my coffee and we're ready to go. So, welcome to Seed to Plate channel. If you've never been here, my name is Brooke and I am an urban suburban gardener in Austin, Texas. I actually have two gardens. I have my community garden plot, which is here. It's very close to downtown. Downtown is literally right there, right across the freeway. And I also have my backyard garden, which you'll see later in this garden tour. So I work in tech here in Austin, Texas. I have a corporate job and I garden and make YouTube videos in my spare time. So it's so nice to have you here if you're new. Would love for you to subscribe and join us over here on Seed to Plate. I just started making some cooking videos to actually show you how I use the produce that I grow in my garden. And today we're looking at things in May. So first things first, last May, I was looking at my May garden tour from last year, which is one of my most popular videos on my channel, which is pretty cool. We had so much rain last May that everything was like double the size. It was pretty wild. So last May we had about 12 inches of rain, which for Texas is unreal. It was super rainy, which meant that later in the summer it was super weedy. But this year we're having a much drier spring and a much hotter spring. This is one of the hottest springs that Texas has on record. So some of the plants are struggling, but that's okay. I want to show you what is going well in the garden, what's not going well in the garden, show you my wins, show you my losses. I don't really prep for these garden tours, so these tours are just how my gardens look today. Right, wrong, real, terrible, great, here we are. So here at the community garden, we have 10-foot by 20-foot plots. So I actually have one plot, which is right here, and then I have half of another plot that I share with one of my other garden friends. That kind of gives you a breakdown of everything we're looking at. So let's look at some plants. Okay, y'all, so we're gonna start in the front. This is a giant oregano patch that has just completely taken over. I do have marigolds. They haven't gotten flowers on them yet. It looks like this one is just gonna start. I don't remember what types of marigolds I planted where until they actually come up, but this was where my onions were. So I'll put a picture up here to show you guys kind of what this garden looked like before we ripped out the rest of the onions and the potatoes, which we literally just did not that long ago, as in like last weekend. So I have my borders lined with zinnias, which, like, can we just pause for a moment? Like, this is exactly what I envisioned it would be, which is just like a wall of beautiful flowers. So we'll look more at those here in a minute. But we do have green bean plants. So green beans are incredibly prolific even in the heat. So in here we've got a mixture of burpee stringless, we've got dragon's tongue, which I think are in here somewhere. Also, it's like a weedy mess because I planted them so deeply. So these are dragon's tongue bush beans. They've got this beautiful like striated pattern on them. We've got tons of green beans. Green beans are coming in like crazy, and I love to just tuck green beans in between plants. So the reason they're kind of all over the place is because we had our onions right here, and then we had our potatoes over here, and then we had like some random rows of garlic that I planted in October, which we'll talk about in a sec. So we literally just packed them in. And also beware, you have two types of green bean plants. You have pole beans, which are gonna climb vertically. You need to give them something to climb on. Or you have bush beans, which are gonna behave more like a bush. So that's why we pack them in really tight so that they'll actually hold each other up. And the plants themselves can kind of take a lot of abuse. Like when I'm harvesting these plants, I'm moving them around. As long as you don't rip them out of the ground, they'll be just fine. So let's talk about the garlic. So my garlic, and I have to be careful, I uncovered a baby snake in here when we were harvesting potatoes, and it kind of reminded me that there's like this thing called wildlife. So my garlic has been in the ground since October and it's not ready yet. So it's still just, it hasn't actually created cloves. Like the heads are getting nice and fat, but there's no cloves quite yet. So I actually have to wait. I was asking one of my plot neighbors and he said July is usually when garlic is harvestable. So stay tuned for some garlic harvesting. And the sun is just starting to peek over the trees, which means it's gonna get hot. But let's take a look at these beautiful zinnias. So I love growing flowers. It's one of my favorite things. And I don't remember exactly, I can pick out a few of the varieties, but probably not all of them. So this is a red Meteor Zinnia, quite beautiful. This is a queen lime red. So it has this beautiful like magenta petals and then it gets limey right in the middle. I believe these are more Meteor Zinnias. I love the red ones. Now this one, I've picked a few of the ones on here. This is a queen lime orange. So you get these like beautiful salmon colored petals and then they're lime in the middle. I've picked a couple of these for my bouquets, so that's why there's not any left. Also, when you do cut zinnias, you want to make sure you cut them down to like a node so that they'll kind of bush out and like become really huge. And then these are some of my favorites. These are called canary bird zinnias. And there's something about this yellow color that just feels like so beautiful and warm to me. These are either medias or California giants, TBD, not actually sure. Now these are really fun. These are a new variety to me. These are called Cactus Zenias, and they've got this very like different leaf or petal pattern that I like really love. It's kind of like just a wild little pattern. And like, look at this one. Oh my God, I love flowers so much. Also, this is my neighbor's watermelon plant that seems to be sneaking into my plot. This variety is called Peppermint Stick. So it has these beautiful like striped leaves. These were actually the first flowers I grew like 3 or 4 years ago. I was a pre-pandemic gardener. So love this one. This one's a huge favorite as well. These are Illumination Zenias, and they just have this like beautiful pink color to them. And they're just really beautiful. We have a few others here that are kind of struggling. I've got like a very weedy corner over here. It looks like we have a few marigolds on this side that are blooming. I believe these are either Orange Flame or Bambino marigolds. Yeah, it looks like we've got some over there. It's getting a little hot for the nasturtiums. So the nasturtiums are pretty much dead, but that's okay. We have a tight window for nasturtiums. And then along this side, it looks like we have all the same varieties that we already saw. We have these Illumination. The only one, oh, maybe it's down there. So these are definitely California giants, these like magenta ones. And then it looks like those are probably more California giants. Oh, here's a great queen lime orange. So that's a really good example of a queen lime orange. And how it kind of takes on that lime appearance in the middle. So that takes care of this plot. I'm actually going to be planting melons and okra like right after I get done filming this, and that'll be in a separate video about what to plant for like heat-loving gardens, because I am in Central Texas. I'm in Zone 8B. And our spring garden happens March through like June, and our summer garden actually happens like June through August, and that's all your super heat loving stuff. So stay tuned for that. Okay, now this is my other half of a plot, and this is all Determinate tomatoes. There's a really big carpenter bee that keeps flying around, and I know he's just looking for pollen, but man, he's real close to me and he's real big. So my goal for this year, one of my goals, I always set goals for my garden. One of my goals last year was to grow enough tomatoes to can tomatoes. I didn't really know what I was doing though. I didn't have the right varieties. My tomatoes got eaten up by squirrels. Annoying. So this year, I had a very different strategy. My strategy was to grow determinants, which determinants get to a very determined height And so I wanted to grow determinants, and I wanted to grow a lot of them and really pack them in. So I have paste tomatoes, which are Romas and San Marzanos, and then I have determinants, which are Invincibles and red snappers. So let's look at them. I will say, my trellising method has been lackluster. I really wanted to do the Florida weave, but I didn't really know what I was doing. To be perfectly honest, I didn't really know what I was doing. So you just see there's gonna be like a lot of like random strings holding things up. Like there's stuff like this where I just needed it to like be centered. Yeah, it's a lot of like absolute chaos if I'm being honest, but let's look at the plants. So this is one of my San Marzanos, and you can see we are just freaking loaded with tomatoes, which is excellent. That was exactly what I wanted. So this whole bed is San Marzanos, and then these I believe are the red snappers. I believe that's what these are, and I'm getting like a few at a time, which is pretty exciting. So I have some more at home, and I'll show you guys probably next week how I collect my tomatoes so that I can can them all at one time. So these determinate tomatoes are like meant to be big and bushy, and they're not meant to be pruned. So I have not pruned a single thing. It looks like there's a couple in here that are gonna get red, but I don't wanna pick them if I don't have to quite yet. So these are the red snappers. These I believe are the Invincibles. These are like real big, beefy tomatoes, which is pretty cool. And you really have to like get into these plants and like search for the tomatoes. Oh wow, we have a lot in here. So you really have to get in here and like search for the ripe tomatoes because these plants are so bushy. I'm kind of used to the tomatoes just being like very apparent. Like, hey, I'm a ripe tomato and you can see me. But these have been interesting. I've really had to kind of dig for them. But we're getting tomatoes, which is just very exciting. Like I said, these tomatoes are very close, and you're gonna notice a lot of these tomatoes have some like seriously yellowing leaves. Now the only thing I've done to these tomatoes was we mulched the beds, but then I also used tomato tone, and I've only used it one time. I'm a big believer in building your soil health and using that in conjunction with fertilizer. I don't want to strictly rely on fertilizer to feed my plants. I want to build soil health, which is what I've been doing at this garden for like 3 years. So, just a note on that. So, this bed right here are my Romas. Now, I got these crazy seeds on frickin' Amazon. I got these for Christmas in 2019, these crazy seeds from Amazon, before me and my boyfriend like really knew what the heck we were even doing. But they are workhorses. Like, I have no idea if they're hybrids, I don't know if they're heirlooms, I have no clue. But these seeds are freaking unreal. And it looks like we got some ripe ones. Oh, we do. Is this a garden tour or a tomato picking video? Who knows? All right, got a couple more tomatoes. And also, discoloring like this will happen with your tomatoes, and it's just like not a big deal. Don't sweat about that kind of stuff. When you grow tomatoes organically, this could have been like a bug that sucked some juice out of it. Who knows? Also, on that note, I don't spray this garden with anything, like no pest control measures. I kind of take the approach, obviously if the pest gets terrible, like gets really bad, I'll spray something. It's always organic. We have to be organic here at the community garden. It's part of like the contract we sign. But oh God, just look at these. And I have pruned these plants like a tiny bit. I have pruned off like anything that's like super dead. I can show you on a couple of these plants over here. Now this one was weird. I had a tomato that like literally rotted, and I have no idea why. So that's bizarre. But I don't think any of these are ripe. And then here's something funny. I have no idea what these are. I thought I knew. I thought these were all my determinants, but I have no idea what this plant is. And it looks like, I think that one's a red snapper, but this plant just kind of snuck in here and I have no idea what those tomatoes are. So one like this. So some of these, they just got really yellow. And so I just pruned off any of the leaves that weren't doing anything for me, but freaking look at how many tomatoes. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm so freaking excited. Yeah, that plant looks terrible. Guys, I already got bit on my butt, through my pants. Just gotta give it up some days. So anyways, that is the community plot. Now, I'll probably do a video about cover cropping a little bit later this year. My plan with the bed behind me is to plant it all out for summer. Sweet potatoes, okra, melon. My plan with the other half a bed where all these determinate tomatoes are in is actually to cover crop it and do some nitrogen fixing. So here in the South, black-eyed peas grow really well. So I will likely plant this all out with black-eyed peas and let it go until it can't go anymore. So that's pretty much the plan for the other half a plot, because that plot was abandoned for a really long time before we took it over. So I want to make sure it's nice and healthy for the fall whenever I start planting in the fall, because I will have both beds. And I've worked, like I said, for the last 3 years on this one, so I might as well keep it going. But that is the community plot. Let's go over to the backyard, and I need more caffeine. Okay, y'all, we're in the backyard garden. We're enjoying a beverage tonight. This is a Tejano Dreams Dry Cider by Fairweather Cider Co. It's really good. We are here to finish up our garden tour in the backyard garden. I got myself sprayed down with bug spray, so let's start in the herb hobbit hole. Okay, y'all, so I was leaving this parsley because I had a few swallowtail caterpillars. However, I can't seem to find them, and I think they got eaten by wasps. So I'm considering cutting this down because the bees aren't really coming for it, and I think it's kind of just hampering the sunlight to the rest of things, which this is peppermint. And then I've got some basil plants in here. These dahlias, well, this guy's leaning. And I don't think they've been super pleased with the heat. So I've got this one, and then there's that one over there. But yeah, they're not doing great. But I've got some Thai basil, and my rosemary's doing okay. This peppermint is insane. I need to harvest some for tea. The repoed lemon tree is killing it. And the nasturtiums that I put in there as a friend are doing very, very well. These nasturtiums are beautiful. This is a Fiesta blend of nasturtiums, and they've done very excellent. I think it must be because they're elevated, because I put nasturtiums down in this bed and they are not doing as well. So, lesson learned there. This area of the garden, I did lose an eggplant that was right here. I lost it to spider mite damage, actually. So, I've got a couple other eggplants. They're growing pretty slow, but they're still growing. We've got another basil in here. This row of tomatoes is not doing as well as the tomatoes did last year, and I'm wondering if it's because of the rain that we had last year. We had an insane amount of rain last year, but by this time last year the tomatoes were already at the fence, so they were like literally twice as tall. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on there, but something's happening. I did have a squash right here. It died. Thank you, squash vine borers. My Vega is doing really well. My purple basil is like not super purple anymore. I think it's because it's so hot outside. And also my apricot lemonade cosmos have not done quite as well as I thought they were going to. The dahlias in this bed look a little bit better, but I definitely think they are suffering because of the heat. Like, it feels like they got this big and then they just stopped growing. And then this is one of my grapes. This is from my patio upgrade video, and it does look like we did have like a little assortment of little grapey guys right there. They probably won't turn into anything since this is the first year for this plant. This is a Granny Valpat, and I know it's a muscadine grape. So we'll see what happens with this guy. I feel like my blueberries and my grape, they're kind of just waiting to be put in the ground. And the reason I have these plants, so the grape was a gift, and actually the blueberry was a gift too by some of our best friends. So I'm kind of keeping them alive until we have a place to plant them. And then I will put them in the ground and hopefully have like a big, beautiful patch of blueberries. Let's unpack everything happening here. It all looks very green. It's very happy. However, there are a lot of problems with this garden, which, as per usual, I feel like I'm always talking about how this garden has a lot of problems. So, good news, we do have some mini bell peppers. I plant these as little garden snacks. So this is a chocolate. I think that one is going to be a yellow. So I'm waiting for those to ripen up as little garden snacks. These are our Scotch Bonnets. They are finally growing with the hotter weather, which is great. The Tomatillos, this time last year, I was harvesting so many Tomatillos. Now, this plant is just stunted. These two, this one especially, had really bad spider mite damage. Like, that's what this is. This is spider mite damage, and I didn't catch it because I didn't actually go look at the plants close enough. And so it is seeming like it's recovering. Now that I've identified what the problem is, it does kind of seem like it's recovering. So I hope I get tomatillos this year, but good chance that I don't. Some of these other peppers are they're just looking rough, y'all, but I'm hoping that with a little bit of rain and with some sun that they'll do better. My tomatoes in the back, some of them are stunted, some of them are short, and then you have ones like this that are like really tall and doing really well. So it is harder to see, putting these tomatoes back here, which ones are ripe. Like, I feel like it keeps surprising me. And I do with the peppers and the tomatillos, I need to get them tied to their stakes. So they all have stakes now, which is good, but I just have to get them tied to the stakes, like this guy. This is a Jimmy Nardello pepper. I actually got this, I wanted to try these because Kyle Haggerty from Urban Farmstead, he loves these, and he grew like massive ones last year, so I wanted to give this one a try. And then of course I lost all of my labels, so I have no idea what any of these are. If it doesn't have a pepper on them, I probably don't know what it is. Now it does look like this is a new to me variety. These are black strawberry tomatoes, and I picked one and ate it without fully knowing if it was ready, because they get pink like this on the bottom. Now see, this feels ripe. Should we give it a quick taste test? Let's just do a quick in-garden live taste test. So it's pink on the bottom, and then it's purple on the shoulders. It was close. Not fully ripe, but it was close. Flavor's pretty good. A little tart, but that could be because it's not ripe. So finally, some of our slicers started to form. It got really hot really fast this year. So some of them just like literally didn't, like the blossoms would just fall off. So normally I would have tomatoes like all the way down here, but they're forming really in like the middle of the plant this year. So we do have a bunch of serranos that are starting to be ready. I need to come through here and pick some of these. Jalapenos always do really well here. This is another eggplant that I stuck in here. So I did use one of these jalapenos. For a pico de gallo. And, it was spicy. It was real spicy. So gotta be careful with those. But I'm not seeing any other ripe tomatoes at this point. My squash has succumbed to squash vine borers. So I got one zucchini, and that was it. I almost had a crookneck squash that was going to be right there, but then it got eaten by ants. So I'm going to have to pull these out, which is fine. I fully expected to. And I'm actually going to put melons right here, and that'll be what takes up this space. Now, one thing I do really need to come in here and harvest are these shishito peppers. Now, I did a video last summer about how I like to eat shishito peppers. Shishito peppers are awesome, just like blistered with a dipping sauce. They're really, really tasty. So, love me some shishitos. I'm really happy. I almost wish I would have grown more plants this year, but I think other than that, that's kind of my only regret. And then also in here we have Anaheim peppers. So that's what these are. These are Anaheims. And I believe these are more mini bells. So I get way less sun here in my backyard garden than I do in the community plot. Like, this garden gets maybe 6 to 7 hours during like the height of summer. but yeah, these kinds of plants do better with a little more sun. So you can definitely grow them. They clearly produce, but they just don't do quite as well. So we also have, I have a bell pepper plant over there that's finally producing some nice sized bell peppers. But again, we just have had a really dry, hot spring. So we've got some slicers over there. And this is the Mexican tatum squash. I know a lot of people were asking about this. Now here's the deal. So with the Mexican tatum squash, I did not do any squash vine borer prevention. I probably should have, but I didn't because I just wanted to see how it was gonna go. I had really bad squash vine borers. Like there were multiples of them in the garden at any given time. And I'm a busy lady, so I didn't necessarily have time to like manage it. I think if I would have done a better job at managing it, I think the Mexican tatum squash could have survived like one or two, but I think it just got completely just railed. And you're seeing the effects on all the leaves because the insides of the leaves are starting to yellow, which means that it's not getting the water that it needs. So you can really see on the insides of these leaves that yellowing that I was talking about. And yeah, so the other thing we've been battling, which I'm gonna have a whole video on, are the squirrels. So before we talk about some of this other stuff in here, I wanna show you my new friend. This is Peter. Peter is an owl decoy that has a motion sensor that talks, and he also moves his head. So if we, so the head moving is with the wind, but it does make noise. And I felt like I had National Geographic like hanging out. Like my desk window is right there and I can literally see it perfectly. And I'll put a video over here. I was literally watching this go down. Like these squirrels were playing chicken with my owl decoy. So the next step in trying to get the owls, or not the owl situation, get the squirrel situation managed is I've actually ordered
oh, there's one down there.
Bird stakes, and those are like pointy little things that point up that you put along the fence to stop them. Because I've put cayenne, I've put all kinds of stuff, and they are relentless. They're thirsty. And so also what I did was I put the top of our bird bath over here, and I had it filled with water. I don't want to leave it that way because standing water equals mosquitoes, but I'm gonna fill it every day and see if they'll drink the water out of here instead of eating my tomatoes. Now, moving on. These are some bare-rooted plum trees, and they're kind of like falling over. I'm not really sure if that's normal. I tried to put them in like a sunnier location to see if that would help them stand up, but like I have no idea if that's gonna help. And then these are my rooted fig cuttings that actually survived. So that's awesome. We need to give those new pots. And then over here, we have my crazy idea for a giant cucumber loofah wall. Now, it looks a little weird right now because I just stood it up with those additional stakes. But we have a few loofah that look like they got pollinated. So there's a loofah right there, and the loofah is starting to try and reach for the roof. So we'll see how that goes. And then also, this guy is a self-seeded tomato from last year. It's a really nice variety, so that's why I'm letting it live there. And we'll see if this cucumber can make it, but we've got tons of cucumbers. We don't actually have a cucumber yet, but I think we're getting pretty close. So this is all exciting. I expect this to fill out in the next month or so. And we have a bunch of different types of cucumbers, but then we also have Armenian white cucumbers, which are actually melons. So it looks like we have our first little tiny one. Hopefully it got pollinated. And we have more loofahs. So this is all going really, really well. So things are going pretty well. We certainly are having our challenges here in the backyard garden, but overall we're doing pretty good. The last thing to show you is my little patio orchard, which I'm very proud of. She is small, but she is mighty. So starting at our key lime, we do have a few key limes that are sizing up. So I did a little bit of research, and it does seem like a lot of
a lot of fruit trees like abort most of the fruit that they put on, and they like completely just like let it go. So maybe we'll get key lime soon. And then my rooted peach tree is doing great. This lemon tree is putting on so much new growth. That's a grasshopper. We're gonna get that guy out of there. Y'all, these grasshoppers are vicious. They will eat everything if you let them. So this lemonade lemon is not gonna give us fruit this year, but maybe next year. This rooted fig is killing the game, doing so well. Y'all, this Meyer Lemon. I thought this Meyer Lemon was gonna die. I really did. Look how bad the leaves look. The leaves look so terrible. But look at that. That's a freaking lemon. That is a freaking lemon. Like, I'm so shook. There are like legit lemons on this tree. It's still aborting some of the fruit, which is fine. Ow, that was a thorn. But y'all, we have lemons. We have Meyer lemons. I'm so excited. Those two blackberries probably need to be repotted. I probably need to focus a little bit on that in the next coming weeks. Now this Eureka pink lemon tree, it's big, it's beautiful. However, it's big and it's beautiful, but this Eureka pink lemon tree I have not pruned. It has exploded in growth, and when I pulled it out of its container in my video on doing an orchard upgrade, it was so root bound. So I think it dropped a lot of its fruit because of that reason. I was like digging really into the tree. I think I found 2 fruits that are still on there. So I found this one that is looking a bit pale, and it's not really getting much bigger. And then I found another one somewhere in here, but I don't think it's gonna give me any fruit this year. I really don't. I think it's just, I think it got too root bound, and we're gonna have to try again next year. And I also might prune it at some point. I just need to figure out when the proper time to do that is, because I don't wanna stress it out, especially because we have a super hot summer coming up. And then finally is my peach tree. So my peach tree seems to be pretty happy. I have 2 peaches. They seem to be lightening up in color, but they're tiny, tiny, tiny. And I certainly didn't expect to get like big, fat, juicy peaches this year. But I thought I would at least get like maybe one like decently sized one. So I'm gonna sit down, take a breath. Full-time corporate job. I woke up, I got to the garden at 7 a.m. It's now 7 p.m. Finishing up the garden tour, worked a full day. I'm actually currently making dinner as we speak. And just another day in the life. So thanks so much for watching. Happy gardening. Don't forget to subscribe if it's your first time here for more gardening and cooking content of the Urban and Suburban Gardener. And cheers. We'll see you next time.